Hello and welcome to The Big Picture. I am Tina Jha. In what has come as a surprise development, the armies of India and Pakistan announced on Thursday that they had begun observing a ceasefire along the line of control in Jammu and Kashmir from the midnight of 24th of February. A joint statement issued by the militaries of both countries said the move followed a discussion between India's Director General of Military Operations, Lieutenant General Paramjit Singh Sangha, and his Pakistani counterpart, Major Gen Nauman Zakaria, over their established telephone hotline. The statement said, and I quote, "In the interest of achieving mutually beneficial and sustainable peace along the borders, the two DGsMO agreed to address each other's core issues and concerns which have the propensity to disturb peace and lead to violence." Further, both sides also reiterated that existing mechanisms of hotline contact and border flag meetings will be utilized to resolve any unforeseen situation or misunderstanding. The United Nations and the United States have hailed the move by India and Pakistan, calling it a positive step towards greater peace and stability in the South Asian region. So on this edition of The Big Picture, we will analyze what could have led to the India-Pakistan ceasefire at the LOC and what difference will it actually make on the ground. Joining me on the program today are former Ambassador Prabhu Dayal, Strategic Affairs Analyst Mr. Sushant Sareen, and Major General Ashwini Kumar Sivaj, retired. He's a defense expert. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me on this edition of The Big Picture. Major General, let me begin the program today with you. So, from talking about a two-front war just weeks ago to today actually implementing a two-front peace on our borders, your views on how we've reached this situation that we are in today, and what, according to you, could have possibly led to a ceasefire between India and Pakistan at the LOC?
Yeah, Tina, 2-3 factors. First of all, it is a very good move. It's a welcome step on the both sides agreed for a ceasefire line. You see, it started in 2003. That agreement is still continuing, but after 2016, that ceasefire was not being followed by either country. The point was, the problem was Pakistan, not the India. Because what is happening is Pakistan was trying to send the terrorists, and while it's sending terrorists to divert the attention, they used to fire. Under the cover of fire, they used to try to send maximum terrorists in India. And that is the only way to counter it, that you have to fire back to the Pakistani post so that they do not help the terrorists to infiltrate inside India. Though our counter-infiltration grade has been very powerful in last about 5 to 6 years, and infiltration has reduced considerably. To me, it looks like that there are 3-4 reasons as to why Pakistan has agreed for ceasefire to be adopted by both the countries. One is that, the Pakistan is today in a financial crunch, that they have a debt of $115 billion, and, they need $4 billion every year just to pay the interest of the loan taken. Their inflation rate is 46%. Their foreign reserve have just dipped down to $4.5 billion, which cannot look after even 10 days of their import. And their foreign exchange is less than Afghanistan. In this situation, once you are having a fire on the line of control, and artillery fire, mortar fire, MMG fire, anti-tank missile fire, that Pakistan is not able to sustain it. Pakistan does not have the financial muscle to now sustain this for too long. India can do it. We are economically a much stronger nation. So this was hurting Pakistan badly. Second thing is the type of weapons which we have taken on the line of control in last 3-4 years has increased the fire volume and accuracy on line of control. Our fire was so accurate that the casualty which were taking on the Pakistan side was almost 3 to 4 fold than what we were suffering. That is another reason which has. Third reason is that Pakistan was resorting the fire on civilians. We were not. We were responding only to the military areas, but certainly certain military areas deliberately they have put in the villages and all. So the fire was also going to the villages at time, and there was a resentment within the civil population toward the Pakistan occupied Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan. As it is, the movement is already started in Pakistan when they have seen the development this side of Jammu and Kashmir. They want to now now join India, and there was a lot of resentment against Pakistan army. The common man in Pakistan occupied Kashmir was feeling that the trouble is the Pakistan army. It is not a part of solution, it is a part of problem, and the firing is being done because Pakistan army is trying to push the terrorists inside Indian territory. So overall, Pakistan was feeling the heat. Pakistan was feeling that, another issue which was there is the financial action task force. The way the firing was taking place between both the countries and where the Pakistan was trying to send terrorists, there was a danger on Pakistan also. It may be downgraded from grey to blacklist. The danger is still there because the meeting will again take place in June this year. So therefore, the multiple factors which are played on wherein they have agreed, because they cannot economically sustain ceasefire violation or firing on the line of control where Pakistan was suffering heavy casualty and economically it was draining their army and they cannot afford that.
Okay, all right. Ambassador, what has happened? In fact, the move is being seen as the biggest military measure between India and Pakistan in perhaps the last 18 years towards normalizing the situation along the LOC. But do you see back-channel diplomacy also playing a part in leading to the talks and then coming up with a joint statement on the ceasefire?
Well, I wouldn't go too far as to say that it is a very big development. I am more inclined to agree with what you yourself said during your introductory remarks, that it is a positive first step. We should clearly distinguish between what it is and what it is not. It is not indicative of a change of heart of Pakistan. It does not indicate that Pakistan will abdicate its hostility towards India. It does not mean that there will be peace in the subcontinent for the years to come because of the ceasefire. What it does mean, as you said, it's a positive first step, and if it is properly built upon, then the results could be more and more enduring. Now, you referred to back-channel diplomacy. I have read media reports about this activity. Of course, the word diplomacy tends to get attached to anything which happens between two nations. But as General Savage very rightly summed up, there were a number of factors at play which perhaps forced Pakistan's hands. Let me reiterate that the role of the armed forces cannot be underestimated because they have brought to bear the sort of pressure which Pakistan needed to have. And with this pressure alone, it is now willing to declare ceasefire. It offered ceasefire. Now, it is also true that there is international pressure on Pakistan. There was a mention of the FATF. You yourself referred to President of the United States. Now, Pakistan had been expecting the new administration in the United States to be very, very pro-Pakistan. But that has not really turned out to be the case, and the new administration has made it quite clear that it wants to see Pakistan taking positive steps as regards terrorism. Now, that is where the key question lies. Can Pakistan de-link itself from terrorist forces? Can Pakistan break the umbilical cord which terrorist organizations have with the Pakistan state? Now I'm afraid that is going to be very difficult because of the fact that Pakistan's state policy is based on sponsoring terrorist activities against India and against Afghanistan. So, as far as the ceasefire is concerned, if Pakistan is not really having a change of heart, to me, the important question is, let's see how long this ceasefire lasts. I do not think it is something that will bring about a sea change in the politics of the subcontinent. But of course, as you said, and I agree with you, it's a very good first step.
Mr. Suri, so it's a very good first step, but looking at the past, this is not the first time that both countries have agreed to give peace a chance on the LOC that will make the lives of civilians living in the border areas easy. So, of course, then the question is, how long will the truce last this time?
Look, I am a bit of a skeptic on how long this truce will last. I don't think it will last this summer. So, Ambassador Diaz is entitled to his optimism, but I'm not at all optimistic because look, let's face it, this ceasefire has come out of nowhere. Yes, probably there was a back channel. I think it was way above the pay grade of the two DGMOs to actually decide on this kind of a deal. It was obviously decided at a political level out here and the militaries level at the top military level in Pakistan. But having said that, look at the objective conditions. Is there any thing in the political relations between the two countries which would make us believe that yes, the two sides are actually moving in a direction where they want to restore their relationship? Absolutely nothing. The kind of abusive language which Imran Khan has been using against his Indian counterpart, the kind of vile stuff which the Pakistani cabinet ministers have been writing about India. Do you really think that there can be any kind of peace with this country? Number one. So politically there is absolutely nothing available. At the security level, over the last few months, we've actually seen a deterioration in the security climate. The Pakistanis have been using drones to drop weapons. They have introduced magnetic bombs in Jammu and Kashmir. They've been digging tunnels to facilitate infiltration. I could give you chapter and verse about what they are doing. So, are we really serious about the Pakistanis wanting peace with India? If we are, then we are delusional. So I don't see any real sign of anything moving towards peace. I disagree with General Sivach when he says that there was this financial crunch on Pakistan. The Pakistan armies owns the state of Pakistan. And there is, it's only on the margins that, the expense rises because of ceasefire violation. So I don't think that was something which was really bearing down upon them. There was also no FATF pressure on them as far as ceasefire is concerned. I don't think that was the case. I think both sides went into it because of a kind of a tactical accommodation. From the Indian side, I think it gives us, and both countries actually, in a sense, it gives some breathing space from what was happening along the line of control. But I don't think that agreement is worth the paper it is written on. Number one. Number two, I think it's a very, very badly drafted agreement. What the hell do we mean when we say that the two DGMOs will address core concerns of each other? Do we even understand what the core concern, when the moment we use core issues, do we even understand what we are talking about? Because Pakistanis keep talking about the core issue of Kashmir. Are we endorsing their point of view? And then we have, the spin doctors in India who neither read nor understand what is written in Pakistan or what the Pakistani leaders say, who have been, singing praises that Bajwa has extended the hand of peace. Did they even bother to read what either Bajwa or Imran Khan said when, this toning down of Imran Khan? Have they even bothered to read what they've said? Basically, what both of them are saying is that India should surrender Kashmir, discuss the modalities of how India is going to implement the UN resolutions and get the hell out of Kashmir. Are the Indian spin doctors in the Indian media actually endorsing the Pakistani viewpoint? So I find it a theatre of the absurd the way people are welcoming this ceasefire. I have nothing against a ceasefire per se, but to get ahead of yourself and imagine that now it will lead to peace, there will be people-to-people contact, that whole shebang. I don't know. It's utterly the theatre of the absurd as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, Major General, coming back to you on what Mr. Sareen is saying, you listed out several factors for Pakistan to actually come up on the table at the DGMO's level and agree to this ceasefire. But are these reasons compelling enough for a country like Pakistan? The country's Prime Minister said his previous stand has been over India's decision to amend Article 370. And Imran Khan even went to the extent of saying that there will be no engagement with India without the restoration of Jammu and Kashmir's autonomous status. So, in that aspect, how much can we trust this country?
Absolutely. Tina, if you cannot trust Pakistan, there is no doubt about it. Remember that from 2003 to 2016, ceasefire, no violation was less. But the terrorists were trying to infiltrate as much as it's now. So to that extent, one has to understand that the core issue of Pakistan army is to send the maximum terrorists in Jammu and Kashmir. I think that will continue. Now the onus lies on that. If they keep on doing it and their army posts are trying to help them out, we have a right to respond the place of own choosing. So therefore the point today is that we are not changing our system as for a line of control. Our counter-infiltration grid will be very robust and we will not allow the terrorists to come inside India. And should the Pakistan army try to help them out by doing fire, we will respond with a might. That is very well known. We do not want a sort of violation on the line of control, but the onus is on Pakistan army. How long will they sustain themselves in the sense that they will stop sending the terrorists? This is a huge question. Point is seen. Second thing is, if there is a terrorist action taken place in India, India has a right to respond. India has made it very clear that we will suitably respond in case if there is a Pulwama type attack or what has happened in Uri, and we will respond place of own choosing and time, and that will be very, very strong. So Pakistan knows it. Now the question comes at why this sort of a ceasefire now has been invoked. Which was already there. Now we have restated it that it will be followed by both the countries from the night of 24th, 25th. Possibly they want to give a peace a chance, but I have a doubt. I understand it that considering that Pakistan army, they do not want peace to prevail. They want to send maximum terrorists inside Jammu and Kashmir. If they do not send, they have lost the battle. I will explain as to how. As on today, there are only 150 terrorists which are left in Kashmir Valley. The terrorism violence has reduced considerably. The development is coming in Kashmir Valley. Panchayat election and district development council election taken place. Democracy is at grassroots level. In this scenario, you have already, your all-out operation has eliminated the leadership of Lashkar-e-Toba, DGsMO and Hizbul Mujahideen. Now Pakistan army want to send a fresh leadership and more terrorists. Will they stop it? If they stop it, nothing like it. We are very well prepared. We want ceasefire to prevail. But should they not and they try to infiltrate and the Pakistan army try to help them out by doing a covering fire, we will respond suitably and strongly. So that point is very clear. India is not going to put its guard down. We understand the Pakistan army, you cannot sort of have faith. The second issue which you raised, I fully agree. Till now, Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan was saying there will be no discussion, there will be no talk until unless this abrogation of Article 370 and 35A is rolled back, which it means that they have changed their stance. We understand what Imran Khan has just spoken in Sri Lanka against Kashmir. Having said so, I feel as far as India's stance is concerned, we are very clear. We will not put our guard down. We will like the peace to give us a chance. We will like the ceasefire to be there on line of control, which was there to some extent between 2003 to 2014. And I commanded a brigade there. I know in Machar sector it was holding. But I also say that they were still sending terrorists, but they were not giving a covering fire. Which tactics will they follow, which we have to see. But to me, it looks like that the reason which I stated, I reiterate, they are one of the reason because Pakistan army was also feeling heat because our fire, the quantum of fire which we were doing on the post and the volume of fire and we were eliminating certain posts which was hurting Pakistan army quite a bit. So therefore, Pakistan was feeling that they were hit in a place where they were not able to sustain. Their economic condition is bad. They want to show to the world that they want to have a good relation with India. They want the Joe Biden administration to be impressed. So there are a number of reasons as to why they would have agreed. If there are no reason, why did they agree? The fact is today, will they stop sending terrorists in Kashmir Valley? So that is the thing. If they stop sending, it is very good for us and we will like that. But to me,
Yes,
it looks like
that's
that
exactly
there
the
were number
point.
of
Mr.
reasons.
Sareen, we will not lower our guard, and India has always been maintaining that terror and talks will not go together. They cannot go hand in hand. Now, especially with the summers approaching, we all know terror infiltration bids from Pakistan will only increase in the Kashmir Valley. So in that context, how challenging will it be as far as India-Pakistan relations are concerned in the longer run?
I don't think there is anybody that clueless in the Indian establishment to think that Pakistan has turned over a new leaf and Pakistan is actually interested in peace with India. But sometimes, it suits you diplomatically, militarily, politically. If for a few months, for example, you can have a kind of a ceasefire operating in Kashmir. It helps you, close certain gaps which you might find in your security grid. In 2003, for example, when the ceasefire started, we used that opportunity to complete the fencing of the line of control, which otherwise we were finding difficult because of the constant firing which was happening. But we managed to do that. So even now we have noticed certain problems as far as our, counter infiltration grid is concerned, our posts are concerned. So yeah, we can use this opportunity to beef up our defenses. Why not? The other thing is that we give impression to the rest of the world that look, we are open to some kind of a peace process with the Pakistanis, and we are willing to take that extra step. But if the Pakistanis, and knowing fully well that the Pakistanis are not going to stop doing what they are doing, they will continue to do it. And one fine day, the ceasefire is going to collapse, as it has done on multiple occasions in the past. The fact that you signed this agreement way back in 2013, you had signed another agreement to restore the ceasefire because ceasefire violations had commenced. 2018 again you came up with one, and in between you've had DGMOs regularly talk to each other and try and tamper things down when tensions reach a certain level. That understanding lasts for a couple of days, sometimes a couple of weeks, and then it finally collapses because collapses on the rocks of reality, which is there. So something similar will happen, is likely to happen this time around. So I don't think either the Indian army or the Indian government is going to lower its guard. The other thing which we have to look at is this whole thing which some of the people in India, most of them advocates of Pakistan, keep talking about, that India was facing this two-front situation, so we wanted to calm one front down. I think that speaks of strategic naivety. Anybody who talks like that, the fact of the matter remains that the two-front situation will become alive regardless of what kind of a tactical understanding you have with the Pakistanis on the ceasefire along the LOC. And the fact of the matter remains that if the two-front situation was what was bogging you down, one front is already de-escalating, the Chinese front. So why did you need to really go after the second front at this point in time? And more importantly, if the Chinese were to do some adventurism against India, I don't think anybody in Indian security establishment can rest easy thinking that the Pakistanis will not intervene. The Chinese will not intervene on Pakistan's behalf, but the Pakistanis will definitely jump into the fray if there is a problem between India and China. And frankly, anybody who thinks that is not going to happen this time around is living in cloud cuckoo land. He does not understand the Pakistani psyche. He doesn't understand how the Pakistanis think. He does not understand the Pakistani strategic calculus. The Pakistanis will definitely jump in and try and derive whatever advantage they can in the event of a India-China fracas. So anybody who says that, listen, reach out to the Pakistanis, quieten that front down, I don't know what world they are living in. Frankly speaking, if I had to choose between China and Pakistan, who I can talk to, who I can actually have some hope of effecting a breakthrough, I would rather pick up the Chinese and talk to them because, at the end of the day, they are rational players. They are rational actors. You can talk to them. You don't have any civilizational conflict with them. You have a competitive relationship with them, but there is nothing intrinsically which pits you against the Chinese. So you can talk to them. You can reach some kind of an accommodation with them, some understanding with them. With the Pakistanis, it is just not possible. But our problem is that in the last 70 years, we keep reinventing the wheel, and we have proved Albert Einstein utterly correct that we keep trying the same thing over and over again, thinking that next time it will be different. And that is how Albert Einstein defined insanity. And frankly, our approach to Pakistan borders on the insane.
Okay. Ambassador, coming back to the joint agreement on ceasefire. So there's cautious optimism because the main idea here is to have peace along the border so that the local population does not suffer. But then what next? Is it too early to talk about resumption of peaceful dialogue, especially with a country like Pakistan, and looking at the past relationship that we've had with them, as Mr. Sareen also pointed out?
Well, first of all, I would like to clarify that in my opening statement, I did not say anything which was even bordering on optimism. And I was really surprised that my dear and esteemed friend, Mr. Sushant Sareen, thought that I was being very optimistic about the whole thing. I had very clearly said that I do not see any change in Pakistan's policy towards India. I do not see Pakistan having a change of heart. I said I do not see Pakistan disavowing terrorism. So Tina, when you asked me whether it's a big development, I said I do not consider it a big development. And I went on to say it is just a first step. If lives are being saved and not being lost on account of cross-firing, it's a good first step. I welcome it. Whether it leads us anywhere is another matter. And I went on to say that I do not expect things to be leading anywhere. We will be taking one step forward and one step back, as has been happening again and again. Let me mention that I used to sit with Mr. Sushant Sareen's father in the mid-80s, and he used to be one of the biggest experts on Pakistan, and we used to have endless conversations about how Pakistan's hostility will not change. And now I find that I'm sitting with Mr. Sareen doing quite the same thing, because Pakistan's policy towards India is just not going to change. As he said, this maneuver on the part of Pakistan is tactical. It is buying time, it is appearing nice to the West, it is trying to shed off pressure for whatever reason. But nobody in his right mind will expect the Pakistanis to give up their hostility towards India. So, Mr. Sareen, let me clarify, nothing in my opening remarks should have been construed as optimism. Having said this, let me mention, Tina, that I have gone through this agreement that has been reached, and frankly speaking, as has been mentioned earlier, such ceasefire agreements have been arrived at time and again.
Yes.
And as Mr. Sushant Sareen said in his opening remarks, very often they are not even worth the paper they are written on. So, to use another idiom, the proof of the pudding lies in the eating of it. And I'm afraid that this pudding, which is being cooked, will not be any different from the different puddings which the Pakistanis have been trying to serve us in the past. Their hostility will remain in place. Well, the Chinese are also, I think, being very tactical about everything relating to India. These two neighbors I am never going to trust. So, regardless of whether there is a good first step, I will continue to be very, very watchful. But as I said earlier, yes, a good first step is to be welcomed.
Okay. So it may not lead us anywhere is something that all our three panelists have established. It is a tactical move by Pakistan. But as far as the local population is concerned, till the time they do not suffer and their lives are easier, it is, of course, a positive step. which both India and Pakistan have agreed to, but it remains to be seen till how long will this ceasefire agreement last. Thank you to all my guests for joining us on the program today and putting things into perspective for us and our viewers. Pleasure having you on the program. So that's it from us on this edition of The Big Picture. Just in case you missed the television broadcast, you can also watch it on YouTube, and you can send in your feedback and suggestions as well. Thank you for your time.
Well,